So there are different types of waste, and this has to do with its origin, location, source, composition, hazard properties. Waste sometimes or most times is biodegradable and non-biodegradable. So, and among all waste types that is available to man, the solid waste is the most obviously noticed in any human environment because of its nuisance level. Waste is a very huge issue connecting with several developmental and human interests, let me put it this way, because it interlinks with ecological and environmental footprints, including climate emissions, biodiversity loss, environmental degradation, and human health issues, especially what promotes human lives. Talking about food security, poverty, gender equality, even COVID-19 and economic improvement. So it shows that waste is very vast, and its management is also encompassing. The management of waste is encompassing because it involves several functions. It involves generation of waste, collection, transfer, treatment, and a whole lot. So it is a very broad concept that concerns everyone, because the human nature is such a way that one must produce waste, no matter who you are. We are fashioned to produce waste, and so everybody is part of the waste problem that is existing in this society today. Now, talking about what connotes sound waste management, it is a concern of the global world. Of course, several conventions, talking about the Basel Convention in time past, talking about the institutions like United Nations. Lately, we are talking about Sustainable Development Goal 11, 17, and all that. Everything about human development in terms of human health and environmental health, circle around how to have a sound waste management. And so from all the concerns and agitation, there has been some particular, selected factors that need to be considered in order to have a good or sound waste management in any society. Here, besides involving everyone, we have the political issues, which involve the formulation of goals and priorities. I think from even the video we watched before now, it was emphasized that the issue of goals and priorities is very key in any sound solid waste management program. The issue of legal and regulatory framework is also key. Then talking about institution, the consideration of institutional strength in solid waste management is also very key. We talk about the issue of structure, coordinations, functions, procedures, capabilities of stakeholders and communities, as well as organizations, capacities. So you also talk about the responsibilities of local and state government in terms of how to decentralize and empower each institutions or sub-institutions in the management of waste. Then the social factor also needs to be considered in sound solid waste management. That has to do with the pattern of waste generation, disposal, the social and psychological needs and demand. The role of NGO community members are also key in considering sound waste management. Then the issue of social conditions of both formal and informal workers around the waste management is also very important. Then the issue of finance is key also. For those of you who joined this meeting before the starting, there was a video that was just played. It was just, pronouncing things that are critical in having a sound, solid waste management in any society. Talking about finances, the issue of budgeting and resource mobilization, capital investment, and cost reduction is also key. Then looking at the economic. Economic is actually talking about the contribution of waste management into the economic development of any community. It also looks at the conservation, efficient use of resources, job creation, and income generation. Then the issue of technical consideration is also key. So having understood what it takes, some of the factors that need to be considered in sound waste management, our focus area today is Lagos. And the question now is, where is Lagos and what do we have in Lagos that make Lagos a peculiar interest to understand its waste management? And so here I try to let you understand the geographical peculiarity of Lagos. Lagos occupies a tropical space. A tropical space in the sense that it is a humid environment. And temperature is so high, up to about between 28 to 32, or sometimes even more, Celsius. Rainfall is also very high in Lagos. It is a cosmopolitan city, extending gradually, and it's covered about 22% of the land size is covered by the water. Lagos is the smallest state in Nigeria with small space, yet it's responsible for about 65% of Nigeria commercial and industrial activities. The population of Lagos is estimated to be about 21 million, with annual growth rate of about 2.8. All these have implications for waste generation within the domain of Lagos. As reported by Loma, Lagos generates about 13,000 tons of waste per day, with each individual producing about between 0.5 to 0.75 kilogram per person per day. This gives a lot of concern about how, with the land space, with the population increase, with the humidity level, it gives a lot of concerns about the waste management options that is available to Lagos. Then other factors or attributes of Lagos has to do with the ratio between the generation rate between the urban area and the rural area. We have a distribution ratio of about 70 to 30. Then of importance also is the current issue in the waste management domain, where we have about 37.2% of the current confirmed COVID-19 cases in Lagos alone. Out of about 220,000 COVID-19 confirmed cases, Lagos alone, as at 15 December 2021, has reported about over 81,000 cases. This is significant because COVID-19 also came with its own peculiar waste stream that needs special attention and special consideration in terms of its management. Then in the entirety of Lagos, this is a map showing one of the attributes of what Lagos has in terms of managing its waste. It has 4 basic landfills where waste end up at the end of the day. Recently, around January, it was reported in the news by the government that those areas are about 3 or 4, 3 or 2 or 3 of these areas are going to be decommissioned. What does that mean? It means that the area is no longer fit for disposal of waste. Of course, you and I know, most of us are in Lagos and we know what it is at Ojota area, Olusosun area. I think there was a research recently that tried to look at the water, contaminant level in terms of the water around the lower part of the Olusosun. And to amaze you what came out, it shows that the water around there, either borehole or even borehole or well, they are all polluted above the acceptable level. There's encroachment in the area. There are rats and other, rodents roaming around all the environment. So the area appears not to be too conducive for human, and that is the basis under which government is proposing the commissioning of this area. But before we go further also, it will interest us to try to look back in terms of what has been happening in waste management in time past. Before the 70s, it has been the traditional way of managing waste.
I'd hate to interrupt you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Your slides aren't moving, I'm sorry. They
are
haven't
moving.
been, not on our end.
Wow, then I don't know what to do.
I would recommend that you stop sharing and reshare again. I think
wow, it's moving at my end. I'm surprised. Okay, I should go again.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you okay?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you're talking about the it's rather not moving. Wow.
Just use your computer key. Use your computer key and don't use the mouse and see if it's moving now.
I'm not using mouse. I'm using the key.
So do you want to use the arrow up and down to navigate your slide?
That's what I've been using before you asked me to reshare.
And that isn't working now?
It's not working again. But can I go ahead?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. So talking about the history, looking at waste interventions in time past, it has been a traditional system of waste management. Before now, most of our culture demands that we reuse our waste. Waste are sorted out, even in the household. And people think about the environment in the process of usage of items. For instance, before now, at the traditional level, leaves are used to wrap certain things. People go to the market using their own basket. They don't, things in terms of empty tin containers, Bonvita and Milo and all stuff. All these things are kept aside and even given to those who can, reuse them for other things. Kitchen waste in time past were used to feed animals and even enrich soils around homes. So waste management at the traditional level before now has been without much concern to the environment. And so before 1960, there were no laws, supporting or enforcing waste. So thereafter, due to the population increase, local government councils after 1970 were given the responsibility of, going to houses to inspect kind of like hygiene, noting how people live. It wasn't really per se about waste, how waste is being managed or cleanliness in the street also, but it was about household cleanliness. It was not until during the oil boom period when urbanization and industrialization increased so well that the issue of waste started becoming a problem. I recall that before the first Act 77, Nigeria was termed dirtiest city. Lagos State was tagged the dirtiest city in West Africa. So I think this was a major problem, consigned to the government. And from there, the government set up the Waste Refuse Disposal Board. Thereafter, it was changed to Lagos State Waste Disposal Board, then Lagos State Waste Management Authority, before the present one we have, which is Lagos State Waste Management Agency. I think the major responsibility of all this were about ensuring that Lagos is free from waste, and that which is being generated is managed such that the environment and human health will not be endangered. And so most of the activities currently has to do with cleaning of the cleaning of drains and commercializing waste collection and other, activities. So the basic activity, at least some of the achievements that the Loma, let me put it that way, were able to achieve, is somehow encouraging and interesting. But unfortunately, because of the extent of waste generation, the struggle Loma has is far less than the problem at hand. For instance, they were able to initiate the waste to energy program at Ikosi, Lagos market, where biogas was being generated to support some of the electrical needs. Then the issue of plastic recycling plants in Olusosun. The government, Loma, let me say, was able to also synergize with other local off-takers and even up to other neighboring countries and even far distance. Some of the waste being recovered were able to have good trading partners with other society. They were also able to get compost facilities, and they were also able to distribute waste bins all around the city area, and but regardless of all this that they were able to attain, Lagos is still inadequately unable to manage its waste. And the question is, why do we have this same problem chasing us in spite of all this effort from one and several years up to now? The question is, a lot of issues that need to be considered are still hanging without it being input into the plans and strategy for adequate and sound waste management. Beyond this other strategies that has been mentioned, talking about the political, institutional, socio-technical considerations, we have the fact that no form of public sensitivity and awareness is created. People are not conscious about the ways they generate and how they are being disposed, or what they know, individuals, households, industries, is to generate the waste and dump it out for government to come and pick. It cannot continue this way until everyone generates he or his waste and be conscious about the fact that the environment matters. My life depends on the environment, and so the environment must be treated well, and it have to try to manage my waste in order not to allow it be injurious to the environment. And so there are absence of environmental consideration, even in products buying. We buy and we do not consider what comes out of it. Who is going to manage the remnants? The unwanted part of the product I have, how is it going to be disposed of? These are key. And nobody is talking around there. You see, environmental laws and sanctions are not being enforced. They are less enforced. Let me put it in a different dimension. And so there are bad waste generation attitude in Lagos. People dump their waste on the street without having any sense of being part of the solution to the waste problems. And until something is done. The existing framework for waste management is also not friendly with the informal sector. It's obvious that, in fact, most research has shown that this group of people within the waste economy system in Lagos are part of, the managers. And most of the activities are being tagged as illegal. And so there's a kind of disjointed activity here and there, and they do whatever they like without anybody questioning them or anybody, Again, there is also the issue of unequal distribution of waste facilities in the city. Some areas are well endowed with some of the facilities, especially the bins they use in disposing of their waste, whereas some areas are being denied. And this issue cannot allow everyone to, in a very sincere way, dispose of, because some individuals become vulnerable to the fact that they do not really have what it takes to, acquire some of these facilities. Then the issue of synergy there's inadequate synergy and information about data. Data is key in planning. Data is key in everything one is doing. The issue of ensuring and investing in waste management data for planning and for implementation is very, very low. There's lack of licensed waste managers. Everybody is just picking waste, working in the waste domain, carrying waste, but how many of them are conscious of the fact that they need to be licensed, especially this period that we have COVID-19 pandemic waste being added? There is no any information and any information in respect of how to dump or separate this hazardous or communicable waste for other management level. So with the way everything is in Lagos, it is not possible to experience sustainable development in terms when it comes to the present condition of waste management until things are put in place, and these are so huge. Number one, in order to close the loop for sustainable development, there must be review of the existing waste management law. They need to look at it again and conscientize people about the fact that we are all in it together. It is not about you generating and we picking the waste. So governments must create public awareness, enlightenment, and campaigns for people to know their role in the management of waste. There must be a collaboration and partnership with sectors, with individuals, with communities in terms of waste management. It is not all about generating or disposing. People need to work together, sit down, get involved, deliberate, and look through as to how to strategize, prioritize, finance the waste situation in Lagos State. There should also be a viable waste recovery economy for standardization, waste infrastructural development, training for licensing, and safety nets. These are all key issues that need to be revisited so that the waste situation could be better and the future generation that are coming behind will have space to carry out their own. There should be establishment of monitoring and monitoring of health team just like before, people were going from house to house to ensure if things are done properly in terms of hygiene in homes. But this is no longer the case. For people to imbibe the culture of proper waste management, especially considering the 3 R's. The 3 R's has to do with waste reduction from source, reuse, and recycle. People need to monitor, to monitor so that they can do the right thing. Then again, waste need to be separated from source, as I said earlier. So if this can be done, of course, there are a lot of things to be achieved. The first thing has to do with collaboration will ensure that everybody's voice is involved, is heard in the planning, implementation, and management of waste. Research is key. So you need a researcher, you need every sector of the economy, because human being, there's no any institution or human being or household that do not generate waste. So everybody needs to be partnered so that the problem of waste can be identified and solved. Again, sorting of waste provides opportunity, it has a lot of opportunities. When waste are sorted from source, it makes them look clean, and people can make, it makes the waste clean, and it's also safe from other contaminants, and can encourage others, especially the unemployed, to have interest even in remodifying it or even doing certain things that can make, can create job and income. Then again, sensitizing the public is an effective, sustainable waste management system. And people who are informed and understand their roles and responsibilities in waste management will definitely work out and be responsive in terms of waste reduction from source. Then pollution, it will help in air pollution, reducing the pollution from air, water, and land. It will also increase job, because sourcing your waste from home, sorting your waste from home will help you have access to certain things that can be reused. If it is not, some other people, at least at the community level, it can create a kind of business at the community level, business hub, where certain people can, join together to be, collating the waste together before looking for or calling for buyers to come and pick them up. It will also improve the environmental aesthetics and decrease the influx of pests in human environment. Then with this, the recommendation from this presentation is based on the consideration that has been mentioned earlier. And it is stated that household and organization waste support system at neighborhood is very key. Beyond the review of the policy documents and policy review that is being clamored for, is saying that issues like household and organizational waste support system needs to be considered as very, very important. Different programs that are viable to sensitize the entire community and the entire Lagos system to consider their parts as important components to waste management is also very important. People need to be encouraged, and there are a lot of opportunities in engineering, tech, development of household multi-component bin for the sorting. These are all several opportunities, and more people will be involved, more people will have access to jobs, and people's livelihood could improve. Then there's need for funding and local re-engineering of waste management. All these are key. Then strengthening waste management research and funding for research, because research gives a lot of information and angle about how to integrate and set priorities and do a whole lot of things. Monitoring and evaluation is also very key. And all the issue of climate change information system and adaptation should also be considered. So conclusively, this paper is asking for separation of waste from source. People need to be encouraged. People need to be empowered. Lagosians need to know that we are all involved, and governments should also involve every person in this key. And laws guiding waste management need to be enforced and implemented. Thank you very much for your attention. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Yeah.
Very insightful. Mr. Lasisi.
Thank you once again, man. Thank you for that presentation. We very delighted for your insight into the waste management challenges in Lagos. And as a review, you were able to take us into the general perspective of waste and go into the history of the waste challenges in Lagos, how Lagos State's waste management evolved over the years, and the attributes of how waste is generated in Lagos, the various forms, and also you have been able to tell us the various interventions the state government has done and what Loma has been able to do over the years in terms of the waste facility in K2 and some other examples. Also the challenges the state face, how citizens, lack of citizen participation, the individual focus on just generating waste without source separation. It's also part of the thing, and part of your recommendation, you talked about we need to do research. There's need more for collaboration, and this is part of the thing we are talking about, and that's why this program is very, very important. What are the focus that we professionals feel government should look into, and this part of the recommendation you have made in your paper. Thank you very much once again. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're moving over to the next section, which is fastest fingers again. So can I ask that you please stop sharing your screen, Ma?
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Somebody is raising up his or her hand. There's a hands up.
Yes, ma'am. We will take the questions after the panel session. So please, if you have any questions to ask, kindly use the Q&A chat box menu. That's where we want you to put your questions. Please don't use the chat box menu. Use the Q&A box to drop your questions. And after the panel session, then we would move to the audience to ask questions. Please keep your questions in the Q&A box. Thank you. Can I also ask that the panel members please turn on their cameras so that we can begin to familiarize ourselves with who we're about to engage with in the next session. Thank you. So welcome back, everybody. If you're just joining us, this is Eko EnviroTalk 2.0, and we're talking about solid waste management in Lagos, closing the loop, challenges of solid waste management in Lagos, closing the loop. Right about now, we're moving into the panel session, and I am absolutely delighted to introduce to you our panel members. Our first panel member for today is Dr. Cecilia Medupin. She is a senior lecturer in the School of Natural Sciences at the University of Manchester, United Kingdom, who is passionate about citizen science as a way of engaging with school students, women, and communities. She's also the convener of the Women in Environmental Sciences, a network which aims to promote inclusiveness in academic research to widen participation and foster effective discussion. She has received a number of awards for her role in public engagement involving citizen science. You're welcome, Ma. Are you there, Ma?
Thank you.
All right. Our next panel member for this evening is Engineer Nemo, who holds a degree in civil engineering with a master's degree in structural engineering. She has also acquired skills in contract management, smart city development, and Internet of Things. Her work experience has taken her outside the shores of Nigeria, where she has supervised and delivered projects in Liberia and Ghana. She's a member of the Nigerian Society of Engineers and a certified project management professional, PMI Institute, United States. You're welcome, Ma. We're happy to have you.
Thank you very much.
The next panel member is Afolashade Tosin Nubi, who is a graduate with Masters in Environmental and Energy Management with specialization in environment. She's a principal and environmental engineer and coordinator for environmental management at the University of Lagos, where she oversees environment and waste management issues of the university. She is a member of the Nigerian Society of Engineers and a consultant to several organizations. You're absolutely welcome, ma'am. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Our last panel member is a representative of Lagos, of the managing director of Lagos Waste Management Authority, Loma, Ms. Ademola Elizabeth. You're welcome, ma'am. We're happy to have everyone on stage. So I'm going to start right about now. And my first question is to Dr. Medupin. With your experience in citizen science, your profile says that you're passionate about citizen science. Can you please tell us and shed more light into why you believe citizens are not willing to pay for waste services, maybe with a focus in developing countries? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. I think when you talk about the fact that they are not willing to pay, then it means it's no longer an altruistic process. It's about money, isn't it? So anything that has to do with money, you lose people. So, but when it is a form of engagement that actually thinks about waste management being a factor that all of us are involved, then you win people. Dr. Adedayo said we're in all this together. It's not a matter of a business for the private sector or a business for business people. It is for everybody. So you also have to understand when you're talking about citizens not willing to pay for waste services, waste service is not a priority in our country. In developing countries, waste management is not a priority. It's about the food you will have on your table. So if we start thinking in that direction, then that changes the focus of the people who are ensuring that people pay for their money. And you also have to understand that majority of people who are supposed to be paying for those services do not know what they are paying for. You understand? Because if in a circumstance you can see the benefit of your payment, then maybe you might be poised to do so. That is number two. Number three is the fact that some people are unemployed. You know, how can they pay for, from where do they pay for these services? So in other words, what I'm just saying is if you want people to pay for services, they must have a bit of an understanding why they are paying for it, what are the implications of paying for it, and what are the motivations for paying for it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Your response has highlighted that there seems to be a disconnect between people understanding what they're really paying for. How do you think that we could close that gap so that maybe they begin to see the benefits? Because you did mention that they don't probably see the benefits of what they're paying for. So how do you think that we can begin to make them understand so that they begin to see that it is actually an essential service that they ought to pay for?
Well, the first and foremost, I think we have to understand that we have to just stop talking the big grammar. let's break it down to the things that we all use, we all benefit, we all cause pollution, to the drains, the rodents that are coming out, the smell. Dr. Dedayo said so many, the implications of the waste we are generating, the hazards, the contaminants. All of us, we're all in it together. So if you start small, start saying, okay, this waste we are generating, blocking the drains so that when there is floods, it backflows into people's houses. And the people who are supposed to be collecting this waste are beginning to collect the waste, and we can see. Then they say charity begins at home. So when the people who are supposed to be clearing the drains are already doing it, and then we can see what we are doing, then you can now start thinking about, engaging these people to be a part of that system. You can't start putting force on people's head to do this. It's like using the gun to say, do this, when you are not, we can see that nothing happens. So if we're going to close the loop, I think it must start from us, the people who are enforcing this kind of laws, the people who are enforcing this kind of payment. It has to start from them. And then you can win people, So let's bring it down to the level that everybody understands, not the high technical, very posh discussions, but let it come, all of us benefit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let your response sink in for everyone. I'm moving over to Engineer Muili. From your perspective, ma'am, what do you believe are the challenges?
Sorry, I didn't get that. Could you repeat that question, please?
The question is for Engineer Muili. From your ma'am, what do you think are the challenges of Lagos in terms of solid waste management? Engineer Nemo, are you there?
I am. Am I audible?
Okay, now
it's better now.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Thank you. So your question is the challenges of solid waste management in Lagos State. Number one, I think is the challenge of data. We really don't have reliable data to understand our waste typologies. I mean, there is a research that shows that each household generates about 1.5 kilograms per day. But I don't agree with that because it depends on where you live and what you do. So what makes that 1.5 kilogram and what makes that volume for me to be able to say, okay, I'm going to gather X amount of this particular waste category for the off-taker that might have it as inputs as a form of raw material to their next production. So if you talk about plastic that everybody is now going into collecting, for instance, not everybody can use a particular type of plastic because of the resin makeup. So we don't have enough data to actually show the waste typology. Some just want the organic waste. Some just want maybe just the paper waste, but everything is lumped together. Dr. Daya has spoken a lot about waste segregation. But aside that the fact that we're doing this, we don't have the infrastructure where we keep them. If I'm doing it, where do I drop it? I mean, gone are the days when you move along Ikorodu Road, you see different types of waste collection plastic that you can drop it. But move along this path in recent time, you see everything lumped together. We don't have the data, we don't have the infrastructure. Then we sometimes get consumed by foreign technology. Exactly. Everybody wants to own a phone. Everybody wants to wear a particular type of material without understanding the rationale behind some of these things. When you go abroad, you see when you want to buy certain material, they tell you that certain amounts of recyclables are in there. So you know that if I buy it, I can actually return it to this particular store. But we don't have that. You bring in all these things. They contribute to the dump sites. So I think basically is lack of data, lack of technological know-how, and our poor culture. I mean, the way we even see some of those pickers, until recently when some of those waste pickers are now branded, that you see the likes of recyclers and the like, people are reluctant to go into actually picking the waste. So that's one other factor, our attitudinal change, our attitude to those that pick the the waste. So these are some of the challenges I think one contributes to not closing the loop, then also not encouraging investors to invest in it, because if I'm bringing an equipment to be able to recycle, I expect that a particular amount of volume should be recycled for me to be able to supply to an off-taker, but I don't readily have that data. I have to invest in research, I have to invest in infrastructure, I have to now invest in even trying to link up with the off-takers. So those are some of the challenges that I think if the loop can be closed, we'll be able to really overcome the challenges of waste management in Lagos State. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. A follow-up to that will be that what you have mentioned now is about product information. We are not fully aware about the product information, and there is this impulse of foreign technology on us. What would be your advice to, say, the manufacturers? Because everything actually starts from production process that we are fully aware about. If we're going to know how to manage its end of life, then we should have thought about that at inception. What would be your recommendation, or what would you advise manufacturers in terms of new product designs, so that we the consumers are fully aware about what we're taking in, what we're consuming, and all of that? Thank you.
All right, I think the first thing would be before the manufacturers start producing, I think governments are involved. They give licenses to what the organization are going to produce. They ask them for their raw material. They ask them for all sorts of things. So it's for government to enforce the laws we have to ensure that the material that the manufacturers are going to use are actually adaptable to our environment. I remember going to a party and I was served my rice in a leaf. I actually like that concept because I can actually return this back to my environment in a friendly manner. But everybody wants it in nylon. That will take about 500 years to decay. So I think for the manufacturer, it starts from government first. Let's manufacturer be responsible. Let's enforce the law of the manufacturer responsibility, so that before they even start producing, they are responsible and they are able to choose the material that are actually environmentally friendly. Then I also think that if manufacturer can produce the idea of circular economy, the benefits, because the benefits of circular economy is immense: profits, planet, and prosperity. So if they can go with that principle, I think it will go a long way to help everyone of us, both the planet and the citizen. So those are the things I would just advise the manufacturer to adopt. But most importantly, government to help the manufacturer to also see the benefit and be selective in their material selection for their production.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Over to you, Engineer Nubi. With your experience with waste management in the University of Lagos, can you share a bit of your experience to why the private sector is still unable to manage solid waste in Lagos?
Okay. Sorry, I'm a little under the weather, but I'm fine. Okay, so basically, the reason why we have businesses not, private sectors not, inclusive in waste management is, first of all, I think I'll begin to say that primarily waste management in Lagos is Loma's duty, which is the Lagos State Waste Management Authority. So basically, that's everybody has a perception that it's government-oriented. Waste management is supposed to be government-oriented. And so a lot of people would want to shy away from it. However, the private sector would also want a form of, government would also want a form of collaboration or partnership with private sector to ensure that there are proper collection. And so that's one aspect we also need to know, that the government cannot do it alone. They definitely need some form of partnership with the private sector. Reasons why we have private sector shying away from it is, first of all, it's huge investment to actually, dabble into waste management. Recently, we know that in Lagos State, for example, for you to be able to be a PSP, collector, you have to have a compactor. And that is huge investment. Not just the compactor, the huge investment when it comes to machinery. You also have to look at maintenance. You also have to look at funds, availability of funds. Do we have green funds? Do we have banks that are willing to give loans at lower interest rates? Do we have grants for people that are going into green businesses? So these are some of the reasons why some private sectors are not, going into waste management businesses or ideas. However, I will also say that, okay, accessibility of road network, poor collection of waste charge from residents. So you can imagine someone that's actually registered with Loma, for example, and then is expected to collect waste and then can't actually collect fees or charges from residents, So there's not enough investment, return on investment. So for me, I feel, first of all, it's perception. The first perception is everybody thinks it's government business. And also for some people that actually do not think is purely government, and then they're trying to get involved in it and looking at the huge investments, infrastructure. If you are in the value chain of waste, for example, in collection, you have to think about investment. If you are in treatment, for example, if you are in recycling, you also have to think about also a large investment that has to do with it. You're looking at electricity, you're looking at huge investment for infrastructure machineries. So I think that's it. It's more of perception. It's more of an investment. It's enabling environment. You're looking at policy change. You want to be sure that when one government goes, what you're invested is still safe. You want to be sure that your investment is not going to go with a political party when they leave. So rate of return is also important. So those are the few things: perception, investment, enabling environment, road network, electricity, for example, and then you want to be sure that the rate of every investor is out for profit making. So beyond the fact that you want to help the government collect waste, that's not primarily why you are there. You are there because you want to make profit. So it has to be profitable for an investor to come in. And so if the investor is not getting enough grants or loan at low investment, definitely will not want to dabble into that sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. A follow-up question would be, University of Lagos has done this, and she claims that they've actually done it successfully. So how would you, if you could just give like a percentage of the rate of penetration of private sector participants who are involved with you, that would help to give an idea to say, okay, has this really seen with the UNILAG project, has it really seen the good participation of private sector working with you to achieve these projects? So, just a rough idea would be.
Okay, so I will start by saying that from the experience of University of Lagos, for you to have a working waste management service, there has to be enough awareness and education of people within the city. So for example, we're using UNILAG as a microsome of Lagos State. And so there has to be a lot of education and awareness on the impact of improper management of this waste to start with. You also have to be able to educate people on opportunities that we have within this waste sector. So people want to know what is it in need for me? That's key. Everybody wants to know, is there an opportunity? So you have to be able to disseminate information as much as possible. So that's one thing. You have to be able to tell people, okay, these are our challenges, these are the opportunities we see. You have to be able to give those kind of information. And then of course, another thing I know is important is also stakeholder involvement. We have to be able to involve everybody, not just the private sector. You want to involve the NGOs, you want to involve SMEs, you want to involve informal sector, you want to involve research institutes, you want to involve everybody, all stakeholders. So presently at the University of Lagos, we have been able to work hours in terms of the fact that, we are closed. And so we can manage it because we have some funding from government. So basically we have private sector people that we call the janitorial service provider that collect waste within the campus. And then of course we ensure that this waste is sorted because we want to ensure that we reduce our waste footprints as much as possible. And then of course we are partnering with, for example, Recyclers Association of Nigeria. We have recyclers that come to the university to buy all of our recyclables. So for example, plastic, cans, paper, metals. We have a lot of recyclers that actually partner with the university to get that. And then of course, for example, for our paper, we also partner with recycling companies that, and then we visit to also know what they use it for. So we want to ensure that we're closing the loop. So for example, our paper, we know that Bullos uses for toilet roll. We know that Alchem, for example, ensure that they still have some styrofoams and all of that. So we're also looking at it. So for us, it's not, it's easier for the private sector to come into University of Lagos because one, for our recyclables, for example, is consistent. And then there is no, the bureaucracy is not much. So it's them just having to come, buy, and then they leave. So it's not so much issue. And then they already have their own investment. So they, for example, they have their trucks that they used to come to collect. So it makes it easier. There isn't so much issues around that. And then also for people collecting waste within the campus, payment is done by the university as at when due. And so we also have ensured that residents on campus also pay for their waste management. So the private sector do not have to worry about residents paying for their waste management. That has to be done by the university. So universities are ensuring they collect the waste and then they ensure that they pay the private people collecting the waste. So it makes it easier for them in the long run. So I think that's it. University of Lagos is a close community and it's easier for us to be able to monitor and then collect our charges and then pay our private sector collectors, basically. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I move over to the representative of the GM of Loma, Ms. Elizabeth. My question to you is, what is Loma doing to improve professionalism amongst the PSP operators across the city? Thank you, ma'am.
Question. And in terms of improving the professionalism of our PSP operators in the state, I would like to say that this is one aspect that this current administration is actually spending a lot of time and resources upon to ensure that we have enough synergy and improvement. For example, now we engage them more in trainings and then we also engage them more in a lot of meetings, sensitizations, and all of that to ensure that we bring them up to pace in terms of what we want in service delivery. For example, a lot of the people cannot differentiate between Loma and the PSP. So as far as the people are concerned, the PSP are Loma. So except the professional or people that are really close to the system, so these are the ones that knows that, okay, and the ones that come to the house are actually the private sectors and not Loma. So if these people are our faces, if they are the ones that are representing us in the face of the people, so we think that it is okay to invest in them and to ensure that they are what we want to project to the people. So for us to be able to get them to that level, so what we do now is we ensure that we train them. I think that now they have monthly and bi-monthly trainings, and because it has to go with they also have various value chains in that system. Like we have the supervisors, we have the laborers, we have the business owners and the rest. So what we have done now is we have we structured different trainings for this different set of people to ensure that, okay, we bring them up to pace. And also the management of Loma is also working on, like Dr. Adedayo rightly observed that the professionalism, a lot of these people in the waste sector are not really waste professionals. So what they have done now is even to the extending now to the management and the staff of Loma is to ensure that we partner with some institutions. And then we have now we have Loma Academy,
where we are also liaising, and we are talking with even Unilag and Unilag Consult. We are working with LASU. We are working also with FUNAB to ensure that we have season and structured trainings for our staff at the sweepers, the PSP operators, even the staff, and also working with Lagos Business School to engage and to train the management team on proper waste management. So what we do now is we structure monthly trainings, and then we do a lot of meetings and the sensitization, even for these private sectors in the waste sector. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. My follow-up question to you is, what indicators do you use to measure service delivery of the PSP participants?
Okay, the PSP, okay, for example, what we do, Loma does this intervention. So basically, aside from we have in our chief client officer, we call them chief client officers at Loma, that are attached to the different districts. Now, for us to be able to improve our coverage areas, we have decentralized our operation. Initially, we used to have the Loma operate from the HQ. So now we have decentralized operation to 5 districts and the state to 5 districts. And in each 5 districts, we have people that are like the mini MD of that location, and these are responsible for the private sector, the PSP that are attached to that district. So one of the key performance indicators for us is maybe if we have we give them the areas they service, if we have a lot of black spots, or we also have a black spot, or people dumping indiscriminately, if we still have to do a lot of intervention in those areas, it's a performance indicator for us that maybe that PSP is not going or is not servicing the area as appropriate. And at times also we have complaints, we have people calling into our customer care lines to report or to tell us if the PSP are coming at the scheduled period or not. So we monitor with our chief security client officers. We also monitor based on the intervention we had to do, or based on the black spots that we see across the different districts. And we monitor also based on the complaints and then the comments that we get from our people. So aside from we monitoring them from the back end, from the headquarters, so we also have our people go to see if our people are well serviced.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much. Dr. Adedayo, you're not left out of the conversation. I'm coming over to you, ma'am. Research has shown us that, and even Loma has given us data to say that majority of the waste, percentage of organics in Lagos waste is over 50% organics. However, we're concentrating all our efforts in recycling, plastic waste. Why aren't we focusing on the waste components of the highest concentration?
Well, as I said earlier, managing waste is about setting up priorities. And I don't know, I don't work in Loma, but I think there's more to it. At the moment, there's this agitation of going organic in terms of food production because of the relationship between food, non-organic food and health issues. People don't still have access to organic input in terms of fertilizer. The available ones are so expensive. And so most of those who have passion for producing organic are struggling. Now, the issue still has to do with what? The mixture that makes people find it difficult to separate, the mixed waste. So I think it's a very critical issue. Do you understand? I don't know if I'm answering your question. It's a critical issue that the main individuals or stakeholders needs to sit down and look at issues. I'm still wondering because permit me, Loma, to ask this question. Why is it that there are no jingles or anything to encourage people to separate their waste? Of course, I've been seeing some in Unilag, as Engineer Nubi said, we've been seeing maybe in a place we can see 3 or 4 or 5 different kinds of cans, plastic, paper, this and that. Why is it not the same thing out there? So that people will start thinking environment in all what they do, thinking environmental health, my health. The environment's health is my health, because that's where we get everything. The food we eat, the drugs, you know, the houses we live, the water we drink, the air we breathe. So it is a need for critical thinking and power.
Okay, I think we lost her.
So can I respond to a question on jingles on sorting of waste from source?
Go ahead, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. So I would like to say that Loma is actually doing a lot in terms of sensitization, but I want to agree that maybe we are not doing enough, or maybe our coverage is not covered as much as we should, considering the population size of Lagos State. So like we have, currently we are running the Lagos Recycling Initiative and also the Pack and Pap, whereby we encourage people to source their waste from source, and they can download the app. And what people do now is through the app, you can, like you do for your Uber, you can call and schedule a pickup or request for a pickup, and then the nearest recycler to you will come and then do the pickup. But like I said, we have to look more, we'll do more of sensitization so that this goes around. Then also we have these bins. These are recyclable bins around. I have seen quite a lot of them, even in Unilag. We have at science, I know I used to see one on science, science and faculty of science and other faculties around. So we have these bins around too that are meant to encourage people also to sort their waste from source. We also have them at parks, different parks, and also some recreational centers around Lagos. But I want to assure that this message will be taken home, and then we'll intensify our advocacy and sensitization on sorting of waste from source. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for that response. Dr. Medupin, I'm coming back to you. Before I drop my question with Dr. Medupin, please, the audience, if you have questions, please feel free to use the chat box, the Q&A box, and we would definitely pick your questions after this session. Thank you. Dr. Medupin, how can we unlock the opportunities that are bound in solid waste value chain? Already, we are fully aware that, especially in Africa, the resources that are locked up in the waste is a lot. How do you think we can unlock the opportunities that are bound in the value chain of waste management, of solid waste?
Thank you. First and foremost, I think beyond the logistics, we need to look at the implications of the waste we are generating. You know, everything we seem to be talking about, you know, looking at the money and everything, is about logistics.
Profits.
We haven't considered what are the implications, and all the areas we are also looking at are settings that are actually well laid out. You know, we are looking at the University of Lagos. The University of Lagos is well laid out, is well mapped out. What of other areas that are very informal settings where people live, you know, the house is closely on the top of sewer drains? We don't even know where things are. People just dump things at the nearest available opportunities. So if we're going to start thinking of that, that is point one. Beyond logistics, let's look at the critical issues on ground. Secondly, there is a need for us to classify our waste. You know, we say we don't segregate waste, and we are also talking about segregating waste from source. What type of waste are we talking about? Are we looking at the electrical waste from the computers on, in computer village? Or are we talking about the waste that are, the waste from our food sources that are dumped on the drains very close to people's houses? Which kind of waste are we talking about? Or are we talking about solely the plastic waste that everybody sees that is capable of making money? So these we need to classify our waste and to see how these wastes are treated and not recycled back into the system without being treated. Because one thing is for us to think about compost waste. There are people having an app to call people to collect the waste. What we haven't really thought about is the fact that those waste collectors, those waste drivers, those waste, the people we regard as waste managers, where are they dumping the waste? Are they dumping it as somewhere nearby so that it recycles back into our system and other people pick it up? Those are the kind of things we need to start thinking about. So we also need to, as we're looking to unlock the opportunities, we also need to strengthen and implement our waste legislation as it relates to us, not as it relates to what other people have designed and we're only just copying and pasting. And we need to be able to look at things in the scope of where we are, and that is Lagos. The fourth one is the fact that, Ms. Ademola was talking about the fact that there are people who are being trained. We need to also, the people who are the waste collectors, which are the main people we usually see, the people, the drivers, they need to be trained. They need to be trained in the waste management processes there, because they are the sole people who connect with the grassroots. When we are talking about the people paying for their waste services, these people come, either they come or they don't come, either they are in good numbers we have for the particular locations. Those are the kind of things we need to also consider, and their attitudes as well. And then when we ensure that people know where their own waste is going to, then you win them. That is another one. And that duty of care is for all of us. And it starts with the regulators who are collecting the waste. And we also need to know the routes. It's very important. There was somebody who wrote, I think he used to work with Lagos Loma. And he was talking about the problems and the challenges of the routes, the transport routes to which people will collect the waste, the vehicles are unable to go into most roads because those roads are damaged. So are there areas that people can actually go, what will be the motivation for people to go, take their time, take their waste and dump it somewhere? So these are some of the things, that are all interlinked. While we are talking about unlocking the opportunities, I think we need to start looking at the issues on ground, and then the opportunities will come. When you're talking about the waste as a whole, when somebody starts specializing in, maybe if it is compost waste that will be their own strength, then they go into it. If it is waste electronics that will be their own forte, then they go to it. And then gradually you will see that the different elements of waste, the different duties of care, will actually make sure that the businesses actually will come up. Nobody will tell us. The businesses will come up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am. Engineer Nemo, still on unlocking the opportunity. Why do you believe there is still a dearth of investments? We know that there are business opportunities, but yet we're still seeing a dearth of investments. What do you have to say to that, ma'am?
Sorry, apologies. Can you take the last line again?
Okay, I said, why do you believe that there's still a dearth of investments in this sector? We know that the opportunities are there, the business opportunities are there, yet investments don't flow into this sector as we would want to. What do you have to say to that?
All right. Without trying to, I'll try not to repeat what others have said, but a lot have been said about that. They mentioned infrastructure. Part of the infrastructure is road, for instance. If I have a company that is picking waste in Eko or Victoria Island, I probably will be laughing and be making money in quotes. They will pay, I'll be able to collect waste, they probably will be able to sort it. But if I'm going to maybe areas where their goods are not controlled, I mean, she just mentioned waste being dropped on the side of the drainage, for instance, and probably I have a contract to just clear the drainage, which probably will just be silt. But once I get there, I'm dealing with all sorts of waste because I don't have data of those people that are actually making those infrastructure inefficient. And the ability to also get there is a challenge because most likely the roads are not hard. So we have the challenge of uncontrolled urban growth. I don't know what I'm dealing with as an investor, and that becomes a challenge. So maybe by the time I'm going there with just a digger, let's say, I realize that when getting there, I need to maybe pump water to the silt or something like that. So we have that challenge. We are dealing, the investors are coming into a market that they are not really familiar with. And I want to now link this with the PACAM. The PACAM, we are registered, and I see it as an opportunity for us to actually aggregate data. But there is also still the challenge of infrastructure with the PACAM. You log in for collection, but they didn't come on time because the vehicles that are picking recyclable waste are very limited. But the one that will come regularly to pick your, commingled waste will come because they've charged you. Then this whole volume go to the dump site. About 70% of them go to the dump site. They start sorting them. I don't know how much they are going to sort. I don't know what volume will come for me to be able to promise an off-taker that I'm going to send you this particular volume of this particular waste typology that you require at this particular time. So that's one of them. Then another thing is duplication of effort by the various ministries. I have my vehicle on the way. I've paid dues, so-called at a particular level. Once I'm entering the street, I'm expected to pay. As I'm parking, maybe some other thing, I have to pay some other dues. So the institution needs to be strengthened. There needs to be some possibly merging of the roles of some of the ministries that are duplicated, because we have a lot of them dealing with, some are doing LASWO, some, we have the Loma, under Loma you have the Psp. So there is a need to actually, there is a need for synergy. PACAM, I would say, is a very good initiative. There is a need to actually ensure that the data is well coordinated so that it can be able to advise me as an investor. And I think also there is need to be penalty and a reward system. If you are generating waste, if I'm able to segregate them and I'm able to link them properly, there should be a reward system. If I have a large building, let's say an estate, for instance, if we're able to achieve certain things, if we're planning to make some payment with the government, we should be able to use those points of our waste management system to get some reward system to encourage others. And if we're not able to comply, beyond us paying the fine, there should also be some kind of measures, maybe will be made to clear it and shown to others as a means of deterring others from doing it. Then I also think the perception, there are young people that want to work in this environment, but the perception of, you pick waste. Look at the way people go about picking waste. So there is that perception. So if there are funds that investors can actually tap in, for them to start up, to be able to buy the necessary equipment they use, for them to be able to get data that they can plan with, get loan, and be able to do some projection, I think all those will really improve and strengthen the system. Investors can, really expand and be guaranteed that they can actually return their loan and make some profit. Because there's no point you saying you want to save the environment and you're going, your pocket is going lean. So I think those will really help. We can see samples in Unilag, because one of the speakers have said it is well lit and well structured. It's an environment that is controlled, structured. So I can't vouch of that in some suburban area in Lagos State. So those are some of the challenges. Away from the central, let's go away to the suburban areas and see what we can actually do, because that's where most of the waste actually come from, and also onto our waterways. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very insightful, ma'am. Very insightful, ma'am. Let's move away from central and move into the suburbs, which really is where most of the waste is being generated. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your insight. I come over to you, engineer. Excuse me. Excuse me. I come over to you, Engineer Nubi. I know that we have spoken about Unilag being a microcosm of Lagos, and we are coming back here again. Just as a wrap up, what are the loops that we really need to close for waste management to be truly sustainable in Lagos State? Apologies.
Okay, I think my fellow speakers have said a lot about bottom up. It's very important we have both bottom up, top bottom. It's essential we begin to integrate the informal sector into waste management. And I would say for me, priority is always awareness and education. It's key for you to have a proper waste management system that works. It's important for the citizens to be carried along on what you're doing. So awareness and education. So we need to begin to look at our school curriculum and see how we can inculcate waste management studies, environmental studies into it from the primary level, so that people begin to understand the need and importance of managing their waste properly. It goes beyond the fact that we want you to generate and then we'll manage. We need to begin to talk about prevention and reduction of waste generation. So we need to be able to educate people and create awareness. That's one. We need to also look at information dissemination. That's very important. Government needs to, government Loma, for example, needs to be able to talk to citizens about the challenges they are facing. I would say that Loma is doing great. When you're looking at the population of Lagos, about 20 million people generating about 13,000 tons of waste per day. That's huge. So you can imagine if you have to manage all of that, and it's a lot of work. So I feel that it's also very important for you to communicate what you're doing using available means, for example, social media. I want to see billboards that talk about Loma's investment, on what Loma is doing. We want to see it in indigenous languages, not just English. We want to be able to see people being educated on waste management in languages that are really rural. So that's very important. And I want to see you tell us about what you have been able to achieve in the last year. So you're coming on social media to tell us these are your challenges, these are what. Recently, I know that our governor got some donations of compactors, over 100. Yes, we the elites know that, but a lot of people do not know that you're moving forward, you're doing great things. And we also know that you're maintaining the dump sites. So we need more information, that's true. We also need synergy. We want to work with Loma. The Research Institute should be able to work with Loma. We want NGOs to be able to work with governments. We want to also have the consumers themselves to be able to work with government, manufacturing institutions, the manufacturers, the producers need to work with government, because, beyond the fact that products are coming out, especially packagings, we need to look at the design level first before they are produced. So you need to have some regulations. We need to look from some standards. So there has to be a synergy between the generators, the collectors, the recyclers, the research institutes. All of that is very, very important. Also, very important for me is enforcement, and that's where the extended producer responsibility comes in. As a producer, that policy is supposed to be binding. You have to ensure that whatever product you're producing, the end of life of your product, you are taking care of it. So government needs to ensure they enforce that extended producer responsibility, whereby they pay fees, that taxes, there are regulations to ensure. I know FIBRA is doing something on that. We have got some multinational companies coming together to ensure they collect their waste back. However, yes, we're hammering on the multinationals. Can we begin to also look at our SMEs, for example, pure water manufacturers, bottled water manufacturers, and other manufacturers that produce a lot of beverages locally? How are they also extending a hand in ensuring they collect this waste back? That's very key. Also, we're looking at incentives for even people at the bottom. It's very key. You need to be able to pull people to do something by giving them something before they really understand why they're doing what they're doing. So, for example, you want to give in more incentives for recycling. Okay, if your waste management charges this, if you reduce it by this volume, you don't have to pay for these charges, or you're getting more when it comes to recycling. That's also very key. I think also we need as much enforcement as possible. Enforcement. If you're collecting and you're not enforcing, people would rather want to burn in their house or put it by the median or put it by the roadside because there isn't any enforcement. Nobody's going to hold them for putting it there. So there has to be more enforcement, there has to be engagement, there has to be education, there has to be a lot of communication through different means, TV, radio, ads, social media, all of that needs to come in to ensure that we make a better Lagos. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. I come over to Ms. Ademola. My question to you is, what is your organization's plan for improving house-to-house collection? In recent months, it's been seen that you have focused more on roadside collection. Don't you think this will encourage roadside dumping?
Thank you very much. So I want to say that it's not only Loma as an organization now, it's about the Lagos State government and what the Lagos State government is actually doing to improve household waste collection. And like Dr. Nubi, Engineer Nubi rightly said, recently in August, the governor actually invested into the waste management sector by giving us 102 compactor trucks, which are to go into collection and to improve collection from the household, and also to improve collection from like you said, the focus is on the highway. But I don't want to agree that the focus is on the highway because after the advent of after the coming in of this administration, we had to focus more on the highways and on the highways because we have a lot of people because of the inefficiency in the like household collection. A lot of people had to drop their waste on the highways, and this was becoming an eyesore and everywhere becoming dirty. And that was why we had to focus and focus the attention then on evacuating the waste from the highway so as to have a cleaner environment and to improve the aesthetics of the state. But now we have more people now, more the capacity of the PSP improved over time. We have a lot of them recapitalized, and then even with what the state government has given to us now, the focus now over a year ago is on collection from the source, because it's because the waste were not collected from the household that we have them on the streets. So if we are focusing on the streets, it's like you said, it's as good as telling them you can bring your waste to the street. Then we start. We are not addressing the cause now. We are just addressing the effects. So for us to be able to tackle it from the source now, the efforts of Loma and this present administration, this was one of the reasons why that huge investment was made into that sector, was to ensure that every household is well serviced. And like I mentioned before, that we also have Loma's operation now being decentralized to ensure that we get into those areas that are previously ignored in service delivery, because we understand that when we have a lot of this, you are asking about the key performance performance indicators for us. When we have a lot of these waste, it shows, because these waste are not, they are not growing on the road. They are actually coming from people to the road. So if we're having a lot of them outside, that is telling you that a lot of these activities that we have is inefficient, that collection from the household is inefficient. So we understand that, and the focus now is on collection from the household so as to reduce the ones that we see on the road. So I want to say that a lot of improvement has been made in this sector, and then with these new trucks that we have been given, that a lot of improvements, we've made a lot of improvements in terms of household collection.
Okay, thank you. If I understand you correctly, what you're saying is the recent influx of trucks that you have just recently received would help to improve the collection of waste from households. But is there any plan particularly to divert, to ultimately stop highway road dumping?
Like a lot of the speaker has said, there are a lot of issues that actually led to we having a lot of these things around. So we come to the area of enforcement and then also sensitization. So for us to be able to stop this the people bringing their waste to the road actually, so we have to look at first of all, telling them, sensitizing them, let them know the effect of improper waste handling and disposal. And then we also have to back this up with enforcement. We have to really look at the waste management laws and also we have to enforce, because it's obvious that if we do not do a little bit of the enforcement, then the people we have will not comply. So for us to be able to stop this, we look at using both sensitization, using both advocacy, then we use enforcement. And then we have a lot of people, we have to let some people serve as, we have to apprehend people so they serve as deterrent to others. So for us to have them, a lot of people complying to most of these environmental laws. So we look at strengthening our environmental law and then doing a lot of enforcement, and why we also do a lot of advocacy and sensitization to engage our citizens on proper waste and behavior. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Dr. Adedayo, my question to you is
I don't have a question.
Yes, we've come to the end of this session, but I just want you to give a wrap up. And my question to you is, being a researcher with your years of experience, we see that mega cities like Lagos, they're moving to source reduction. What is your advice so that Lagos?
Can you take the last statement again?
Okay, I said, being a researcher with your years of experience, what would be your advice for Lagos to begin source reduction? Other mega cities are moving from generation to actual source reduction. So what strategies would you advise Lagosians and everyone on this call on how we can actually begin to implement source reduction?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Yeah, in other places, in other clans, there has been this issue of community waste management. And I think if Loma can work with the population commission, or they have what they call enumerated areas or even wards, nothing stops them from having a kind of point waste hub in each of these neighborhood, where people can easily, drop their sorted waste, everything being collated, and the truck comes and pick. I think it can go a long way in reducing this issue of going to, the streets, picking of streets or using trucks to pick waste along the streets. You understand? So beyond that, I strongly believe that has been said severally, almost by everyone, in terms of the enforcement is very key, because Nigerians, Lagosians particularly, everybody is just in a hurry. But if there's a law in place and they are enforced, that is the key thing. I'm telling you, most times there are very viable laws, but the major problems has to do with the enforcement. People do things they know are wrong because they know they can easily get away. So I think it is all encompassing, and that needs to be looked into by Loma. Loma needs to partner with several other institutions that have something that will be beneficial to their, effective and efficient waste management programs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you there? Yeah.
Very much, ma'am. Mr. Lasisi has a question.
Thank you. Thank you very much to our panelists. It has been a very engaging period. I have a general question and I have a very one specific question that comes from the question and answer section. The first one to Loma. Waste bins are basically on most major roads in Lagos State, most especially within market vicinities. Apart from them causing traffic, they cause a lot of environmental nuisance. One of our participants was able to give a statistics of the number of waste bins on Lagos Road, and the statistic is alarming. So if you have waste bin close to market on major roads, they cause traffic, and the waste are not covered, that causes rat infestation, which is a problem. What is Loma plan of moving? Because market waste, market is an institution. Market is not an household. So if waste can be managed properly in Unilag, market can also manage their waste properly. So that is for the Loma rep. That's one. The general question to all our panelists: what are the creative ideas? You know, it can be an intellectual property if you want to make it like that. But what do we think we should do? We've seen what Unilag is doing. Unilag is managing their waste properly. Can't we just take Unilag as a microsect in every institution? We have LASU there. We have LASPOTEC. We have Yabatech. We have a lot of institutions, and we have estates. So don't let us take it as Unilag. Let's take it as a microset. Estates can also be taken as a microset as Unilag is. Yabatech, if you take the population of Yabatech, population of LASPOTEC, population of LASU, population of each of the schools, we are removing a volume of waste away from the general waste. And that's what I think we can discuss if any one of us can just speak onto that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lasuse. So can I quickly respond to that question, respond to the question on Loma that's directed to Loma?
Go ahead.
Hello? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I want to say that, for example, okay, let me start from using Unilag as a prototype for Lagos State. And I want to say that if we are trying to compare what the achievement of Unilag to Lagos State, then I want to ask that how many of the Dumota markets do we have in Unilag? Then how many of Mushin markets do we, or my 12 market do we have inside of Unilag? Fine, Unilag can serve as a microcosm for other institutions, but then we cannot use Unilag as a template for Lagos State. It's okay that we emulate the good works that have been done in Unilag, but then I would like to say, what is the population of Unilag? How many of Makoko do we have inside Unilag? How many of Ajegule do we have in Unilag? Unilag is a community of, it's an organized community. The people inside Unilag are students, majorly students and staff. And then we expect that they are elites or they are more of educated people. So that's talking about comparing and using the templates we have in managing waste inside Unilag to compare what we have in Lagos State. So for example, why we use we call them dino bins, and those are the bins that we place in market for collection of waste. And then why we have to place those bins at the market is because the trucks now, the collection truck, they cannot be easily maneuvered inside the market. We can imagine when you are having to move your compactor to go around inside Mushin, the Ojuwoye market, that food market, and then having them to go inside those markets. So because of the accessibility, that is why we have to place those dino bins and for the market, and those bins were placed there based on agreement and meetings with the market heads. They all agreed that, okay, you can place it. They even gave Loma the locations of those things that, okay, this is most preferred. that, okay, you can help us place these bins here, then the market people will be sensitized to drop their waste, and then Loma will come in time to ensure that they evacuate this waste. Most of the time where we have a lag in collection is because, especially the ones that is closest to us and that we use as to monitor other markets, is that Idumota. And Loma headquarters is placed, situated at Geographical, which is very close to Idumota. And a lot of the time, we have been on the monitoring to that to the bins a lot of the time, that we have to go from the office to ensure that, okay, has it been picked? Then we even monitor the frequency at which it's being filled up. There was this particular day that we had to stay there, and the bin set, and the truck that is supposed to evacuate set out from the office, and it took about 3 hours for that truck to be able to get to that location, for it to move that dino bin and then replace with another one, because of the traffic situation we have around that access, and which is typical of other markets that we have in the state. So we have to also consider the peculiarity of Lagos in terms of traffic management, and to before we say that, okay, maybe these things are overfilled or they are not being picked on time. Because a lot of the time when we set out, we want to actually pick them, because it is market, it is volume. In less than 30 minutes, you know, most of the time, in less than an hour, this bin is filled up. And if the truck that is coming to evacuate is held up in traffic, you expect an overflow before it gets there. So that is talking about placing of this bin, except we are able to, I don't know how we are going to do it. Maybe we'll say, okay, let's station a truck, and then maybe they'll be jumping on the truck, then it moves, another one will come. Aside from which, having that system in place, there's no how the trucks can go inside the market. We have to place those things for us to be able to collect. So, but what we will do is we'll ensure that maybe we increase our response time to be to evacuate this waste, so that we will not have them being overflow a lot of the time. Like we had this conversation this last week, and there's this program on 99.3 Nigeria FM, where they talk this week on Wednesday, and they talk about the sanitary state of Lagos. They actually talk about solid waste issues around that. Then we were having this conversation also at the office, and we were talking about, okay, how do we think that we can improve collection? And it's basically the market people calling to say that, okay, it's because Loma, they have to, maybe they will have to fix a date, and then there's no way we feed it. We have to evacuate every day, because those bins, they get filled in a matter of minutes or hours. We have to evacuate every day. And then for now, I don't think we have a system for us to collect those waste aside from placing those bins. But what we can do as an authority is to ensure that, okay, maybe we increase our response time in terms of evacuation or replacement of those bins as for now. So I think that is what we can actually look into. Thank you.
Okay, before our other panel member do a general talk on it, somebody has just given us a little example. There is a particular community in Brazil, Velva. It's a ghetto community. You cannot move trucks inside, high rate of crime and everything. They have a perfect waste management system. Brazil is a classical example like Lagos. It's a slum-like environment like Lagos. High population also like Lagos, but they don't have that waste challenge. The problem we are having is that we don't look into our problem and look at the best way. We are not here to argue. I'm just trying to give you an example. You said Mushin. We know the total number of stalls in Mushin. Each of the markets has a stall. We know their number. We know the population. You can do the enumeration of the people of the market officers there. We can tell them, don't dump. You cannot say because Mushin is the only person generating waste, you put a waste bin on the side of the road and it will inconvenience all other residents, all other citizens because of Mushin market. No, we can find a solution to it. We can find a solution to it. Senegal, there's a waste documentary in Senegal that their waste are picked 2 a.m. These are developing countries like us. They don't move their waste. They don't put Dano bin on the side of the road in Senegal. They don't put it in Liberia. So why should we put on the road in Lagos and say because it is mushing? No. There are a lot of, Manila in Indonesia, they don't sleep. They have high population, high traffic like Lagos. So we cannot say because mushing, because of our market population, it's because we have to redesign. If we have to redesign our market to have proper waste position, that's what we have to do. A lot of contributions are coming in by other members of the citizen. We'll gather everything together and probably send the recommendations to Loma. Let's look inward. It's not a debate, but it's just that let's look at what we can do and probably face the challenge. Thank you. The other question, the creative ideas, if other panel members can help us look into it. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. What comes to mind is encouraging probably young engineers to go into the production of or inventing of smaller, what's it called, bins with multiple compartments that can accommodate, certain, sorting of waste. Then again, the waste pickers needs to be trained, because the exposure level even now is alarming. And just like the lady from Loma said, there's no information even about their health situation, their health status. And it calls for concern, because there are so many unemployed youth out there who are looking for what to do. And I keep saying that there are a lot of opportunities in waste management, especially in a place like Lagos, where the generation rate is very high. So from source to the disposal level, a lot of things can come out of. And like I said earlier also, about this neighborhood sorting, the neatness and the safety of these waste items might attract some unemployed individuals, women, young women inclusive, and as a source of income to them, if after collating, there's readiness of a Loma to come and pick them and make payment to them. That can go a long way in encouraging people to put away whatever the hindrances or the constraints are and embrace waste management as a career. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other panelists wants to contribute?
Okay, I think I would also suggest that in Lagos State, we have a lot of informal sector, especially for the recycling aspect of it. I know that when you go to Lusoso, you have huge number of people sorting waste. I think we need to begin to look at informal sector integration. We need to give them value for what they are doing, because without them, we will not have the volume of waste at the landfills reduce. And so we need to be able to, introduce them or integrate them into the society in a proper way. I'm also looking at innovation and technology. I'm beginning to look at, for us to begin to use Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, to actually begin to have new innovations on data management. We need to have information. We all just assume that plastic is our problem, but we don't have the right composition study. I'm waiting for Loma to actually be able to give us information, real-time information on volume generated, characterization, composition of our waste in Lagos State. We need to do that. We can't keep saying, making reference to 2015, or we need to, information that are real-time. We need to be able to get it. We also need to be able to ensure that beyond the fact that we just want to collect waste. We need to highlight opportunities for citizens. People need to know that there's resource in waste. They need to know that there are opportunities in waste. So you need to be able to create that value chain and make it clear, and also create, empowerment for people that want to go into that, startup businesses, SMEs that really want to go into that sector. They need to have support, help. Yes, I'm a member of the Recyclers Association of Nigeria. I know we have a lot of recyclers, over 200 of them. And, some of them really need support. They're doing great, but they can be better if they have better, support. And I'm hoping that very soon, our extended producer responsibility, we're pushing it harder than we're doing right now, so that there's a lot of funds for startup, for SMEs, and for people to be able to, come into that sector to ensure that we have a better waste management system. However, I wanted to make this clear, that University of Lagos is doing fine, but we can do better. So it doesn't look like we're like the best, because like you said, yes, you were expecting that we're going to be having total recycling on campus. We don't have total recycling on campus. That has also to do with perception of people and people's behavior to their waste. You're expecting that because you have a lot of professors, you have a lot of students, they will Our recycling rate from the source is less than 15%. Yes, we do about maybe like 15 tons of plastic alone, but we do that a lot more at the end. So we need to begin to create more awareness for people. We need to be able to educate them on the need to really manage their waste properly.
Consider the environment.
Yes, we need to do that. And also, I think for me, it's extremely important for people to have the right perception about their waste. Reducing is key. If you can actually prevent. If you can reduce, please reduce, so that you don't give Loma so much work in collecting, So I think that's also for me. I would want to stop here to say that reduction is also very important when people are managing waste. Thank you.
And recycling.
All right. Can I just add that beyond looking for innovative way of generating waste, managing waste, I think we also need to incorporate the idea of circular economy into our school curriculum right from the elementary stage, for students to understand the implication of what they consume and how they can also use it. I remember in my children's school, in secondary school, there was a room that was filled with uniform that students either lost or they eventually found, but are not ready to use it anymore. So the uniforms were there, but we parents would keep buying because they said it's lost. And at the point, I imagine what this material can actually do to less privilege, instead of it just ending to be a rag. So if the idea of reusing material is actually incorporated in part of their school curriculum, they probably will have remodeled the materials and other ways that they've generated.
Wash and iron.
Well, they can even be resewn and become patches, make them into bags, make them into something more useful for the less privileged and even for themselves. So we need to actually incorporate this idea of circular economy without speaking big grammar, for them to know that, okay, these books can be, we're already doing it. They make paper mesh to model mud house and all that. So likewise for other materials as well. Then in driving that, we will be able to guide them on their material selection. Well, do they want to buy certain things? Do you know that when you buy this, when you use it, where it will end up and what can you do with it? So if that is properly structured into the school curriculum, it will become a culture. We won't have to be driving it to them at the age when they're already formed. Then that will also help us to drive the idea of the appetite for imported goods. Some of them want gadgets. And I can imagine how many of us have phones that we're not using. They're just there. Maybe for some of us, we don't just want to drop it in the dump site, but there are some people that want to collect it, bring out some of the components and use them. but a lot of people just want to drop them into the waste bin. So we need to understand what we are consuming, the implication on our planet, the implication indirectly on our own health. So I think beyond the innovation, we need to drive that cultural change for them to know that you pick the waste from your home, you collect it in a very neat manner, transfer it to someone. The materials they are not using anymore, you can straighten them and give it to someone. So that way we're actually reducing the landfill. Then the rest, they can think of creative and innovative way of reducing them. I mean, that way you are indirectly applying the 3R principle and also reducing from source. So that's my contribution to the conclusion.
I would also like to make a contribution, and also I would like to appreciate some of our panelists for their contributions. Especially, I want to appreciate Dr. Dayo and Dr. Nubi. We understand that data is key, and what you cannot measure, you cannot manage. So it's yes, I'm so delighted that we are also getting this feedback from this section. And I want to also assure us that we'll work more on our data and to be able to meet up with the expectations that a lot of you have to be able to move. We understand that a lot of people are actually waiting for some of this data from Loma for them to be able to spring into action. Also on incorporation of waste and on waste education into school curriculum, I would like to mention that yes, we have started that, and that this November we visited we have the environmental big club that is instituted at the Ministry of Environment, which is a club that unified all environmental studies. And then this November, we went to all educational districts to sensitize them about environment and waste management. And we're also working with SUBEB, which is the Basic Educational Board for Lagos State, to also ensure that they incorporate waste education and environmental management into school curriculum, and that they teach these students in the classroom. So a lot of these things we are looking at, and also we are looking forward to working closely with the institutions. So Dr. Adedayo will be working closely with you. And then we've been working with Dr. Folashade. I've seen her quite a lot of time at Loma. I know she's working with us, but we'll be working so much with the institution, because most of these and the solution to most of these problems we have, they are already in the schools. We have a lot of students do their projects on all of these issues, but they don't get to the agency. Yes, there's no synergy. There's a gap. We are not getting those things. So it's okay that we synergize and work more with institutions, because we will be surprised that we have these solutions already on the shelves in the library and everywhere. So we look forward to working closely with you to ensure that we have a more sustainable environment for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Dr. Cecilia, I'll just let you wrap up as well.
Okay, thank you. I think we were talking about initiatives to wrap up. First, I think we all have a common purpose. And the common purpose is to align with what we are calling the Sustainable Development Goals. And part of it is that we want to make life easy for everyone. We want to be able to reduce the inequalities between the rich and the poor. And part of it is the waste management that we are talking about. And the fact that we are looking for initiatives is the fact that there are things within us, around us, that can make money. For example, a few years ago, I was auditing a company, a rubber recycling company here in the UK. And the tires that were being recycled, that were being shredded, were coming from Nigeria, actually. They were coming from Nigeria. The tires that we burn when there are issues are the tires that are coming from Nigeria. So those tires are rethreaded, they are mashed, they are grained, and then they sell it back to people who are willing to use it for school playground. Those are some of the things we need to consider. I also think another creative way that might not be very favorable to us, but maybe worth considering, is the fact that we have in Lagos, we have LASMA. That is the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority. So is it possible that we can have Lagos State waste management officers in different local communities, starting using maybe Mushin as a pilot scheme in different localities on different streets, so that gradually we have people who can be accountable. At the moment, the accountability is very limited. And so maybe those are the creative ways we can start addressing things beyond the people who have always traditionally managed these issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you to all our panelists. This has been very insightful, engaging, and educative. Just looking through the Q&A box, to be candid, most of the questions have been answered in the course of the conversation along the way. So thank you to everyone who has joined. A few people had their hands raised up, but unfortunately they've dropped off the call, so we will not be able to take any live question. But I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who has stayed on the call. I hope that you found this very insightful and educative. So yes, we've come to the end of this session and the end of Eko EnviroTalk 2.0. A huge thank you to everyone who has been on this call. Thank you, Dr. Adedayo, for your insightful presentation, very educative, and to all our panel members, a big thank you to you. We're grateful.
Thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate your presence and your contribution. Like we say, God will continue to be and guide each and every one of us. Thank you. Moving forward with this program, and based on the experience and information from others, next year, God's willing, we are going to commence a training program. So this program will not just be a discussion, it's going to be, we are going to have a training program. So after having the talk, a week after the talk, we'll do a training program on the topic in focus. And that's what people have been saying, that, okay, yes, we're talking about solid waste, we are talking about environmental impact assessment, but a lot of people are not really, are not grounded in this field. So don't let us just do the talk. Let's put capacity building as part of this. So moving forward, as from next year, God's willing, Eko EnviroTalk will be incorporating a training program into the program, and some of our panelist members will actually be part of our facilitators. This will be a thing whereby we will engage the undergraduates, the school students, and it will be a form of capacity building for us. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
The next thing here would be to let those, so there's usually, as also a part of tradition, we usually run a quiz session prior to as a run-up to the event. And so we have winners who have emerged. So we just like to highlight the winners so that they know who they are and they can contact the organizers of the program for their prizes. Just a moment, please. These are the winners of the quiz competition. So we've only been able to identify you with your email addresses. So please, if you see your email address, please do contact the organizers of the program, and we'll be sure to send your gift to you as swiftly as possible. So I hope everyone got that. So we've come to the end of this edition of Eko EnviroTalk. We're very grateful to everyone who has stayed on this call, and we hope to see you next year. Compliments of the season, and see you next year. Bye. One from here in Lagos, Nigeria. Wande Seriki, your moderator. Thank you very much, everyone. Goodbye.